Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Pete, welcome back. Films and Stuff. What is our topic that gets to grace episode 41?
Ethan, we are today talking about the fourth episode of Moon Knight.
All right.
And things have gotten trippy.
Do you want to give a summary or do you want to give a rating? I know where your rating's going to be. You're happy with this. Do you want to give a summary first?
I'm very happy with this. Yeah, let's do a quick summary. So we pick off pretty much exactly where the last episode ended.
We're in Egypt.
We're in Egypt. A Moon Knight-less or a Khonshu-less Mark Spector and Stephen Grant and Layla are hot on Ethan Hawke's trail, Arthur Harrow's trail. They've found the tomb of Amit. They get in the tomb, and this felt very much a little bit like Indiana Jones, like a really creepy Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
You meet a few monsters. They do a little bit of, tomb raiding. And Mark, well, actually not even Mark, Steven, the episode is really Steven heavy. Mark has kind of been now subdued to being the man inside the body.
Yes.
And so Steven and Layla find Amit's little stone statue, which is the end game for Arthur Harrow. And so which we assume that little stone statue has the same spirit of Amit, like what happened to Khonshu where, he got entombed in that.
So basically, they think they can, like Khonshu got stoned, they think they can unstone or unfigurine.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the episode shockingly ends with Arthur Harrow shooting Mark Spector twice and killing him.
So we think. And you have this, transition. He falls to his death, and as he's falling, all of a sudden, he wakes up in what appears to be a very white... An insane... mental asylum. Yeah.
Right? Where he's being treated for something.
Insanity.
And in that insane asylum, he finds Arthur Harrow, who is now the psychologist that's taking care of him.
Yes.
And so he's now led to believe, or at least the implication is that all of these hijinks are actually taking place in Mark Spector's mind.
And we're basically left with the cliffhanger, which is what is real, what is
not
fictitious,
real.
Right?
Exactly. That's effectively the very quick and dirty short summary of episode 4.
What's your take on this episode? I feel like you loved it.
I loved it. I thought it was such a great subversion of expectations. I thought it was really well done, and I think I know the direction that they want to go in on this basis. It seemed, why I liked it is because, and why I've been liking a lot of the Marvel movies and shows in the latter half of their life cycle, is that they've said, hey, look, how do we change up the formula of the superhero, right? Let's make this an origin story, but let's not make it such a boring traditional origin story. Something bad happens to the protagonist through the intervention of either superpower, cosmic powers, or through his or her own ability. They become a superhero. They fight another guy who has very similar powers to them. He overcomes, or he or she overcomes them. End of the story, right? And in this case, now what they're doing is they've changed up the formula by changing up the genre. So it's not a traditional superhero genre. This is more like a National Treasure / Indiana Jones adventure. And then on top of that, now we're looking at them mixing it up further and by making this like a psychological thriller, a la Shutter Island almost.
Oh, yeah. Good reference.
Where we're led to, we the audience and of course the protagonist are led to believe that this could all be happening in the protagonist's mind. And I really like that. I really like that because it's by changing the formula, what you're doing is A, you're subverting expectations, and B, you're also keeping the show fresh, right? And this is a danger that you face in a mini series about a superhero versus, a 2-hour film.
So I agree with a lot of what you said. I see this episode slightly differently.
Okay.
I thought the first part of the episode was kind of dreadful.
Really?
Like, I wasn't getting anything
What
about...
didn't you like about it?
I just felt like this tomb raiding thing was... it didn't really feel genuine. I wasn't really sure where they were going with this. There was obviously the scene where I'm not sure which deity or entity this was, who was kind of performing like a sacrifice on the table. I just felt like there was, and then there was kind of like this cave chase / fight / falling down. I honestly did not find it compelling at all.
Right.
Then at the end, so I was kind of not suffering through it, but I was just kind of like going through the motions watching it. And I just didn't find anything going on. It turned into, maybe my problem was, if I step back, I thought this show was about Moon Knight, kind of a superhero or an anti-hero. And okay, now last episode, Moon Knight lost his cape and powers. So it's just Mark or Steven kind of going on this treasure hunt. And I just felt like it wasn't really what I signed up for. And I found that the treasure hunt wasn't really that interesting. Then when we got to the point of Mark or Steven appearing in the insane asylum, I have to say that got my interest revved up, because I really wasn't, I could have seen it gone either way. I guess I had my guess or what I thought would happen, but it wasn't clear which direction this was going. But then at the very, very, very end, when Mark was kind of running away and he met Steven coming out of this casket, or not the casket,
sarcophagus.
The sarcophagus, right? Fancy casket. Then I was like confused and a little bit disappointed, because I knew it wasn't really either one of the two options I had. And then at the very end, then they had like this hippo. What's up with the hippopotamus?
Yeah, so I had to do a little bit of digging on that. I had to do
and then I was just kind of like, guys, come on. I want to see Marvel Batman. What's happening here,
Yeah, so let's break that down a little further, right?
Break it down for me. Maybe I'm confused, and maybe I'm just not picking up on some of the cues.
I think this is where I think it becomes a point of personal preference, right? Because nothing you've said is incorrect, or nothing you've said will invalidate, and I don't think anything I say will invalidate anything you're saying.
My feelings are valid. Thank you. This is a safe space. This is a safe space.
Exactly. So,
all right. Take it away.
So the first, I guess, half to like 40 minutes of the show, or so, what I really liked was you get to see a little bit of what stereotypical Egyptian or Middle Eastern movies about tombs are, right? You get to see them plunder a tomb. You do a little bit of the, treasure hunting kind of thing. Nothing we haven't seen before. But what I liked was that now we're kind of on the defense, right? We don't have any superpowers, so Mark nor Steven can kind of save the day, as it were. What I liked about this is that now that Steven is taking control, right? And Steven is not just asserting himself with Layla, but he's also asserting himself with Mark, right? To the point where he's kissing Layla. And it feels a little weird, because even though they're the same person, right?
They're different people.
The reality is they're different people. So you have a little bit of like this potentially infidelity issue going on. You know what I mean? It feels a little
It's complicated.
Weird.
Because she even says like, you smell like him. And then she's like, well, yeah, you are him. It makes sense, right? She's
a
confused.
Bit like that scene in that concept in Wonder Woman 84, where another man is transformed into Diana's Steve Trevor, right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, and they don't really acknowledge it at all, but effectively she's kind of like sexually assaulted and abused this guy for the movie, right? Because it's not him, and he turns into this random guy that she met, and you're just like, oh, it raises all kinds of ethical questions is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that that is what happened, what didn't happen. I'm just saying it raises issues, right? One way or another.
Haven't we all been there in a relationship where you're like, I like a lot of things about you if I could just change your personality?
Yeah. So,
and in this case, Layla's like, yeah, I had this jerk who had like a cute body, and now he's, the Egyptian archaeologist I always wanted to date.
Yeah, so we have that.
My prayers have been answered.
What I also liked is that this episode you get to see a little bit of Steven taking center stage because, he's the one who's like, hey, there's got to be another way out of this room. He's starting to man up a little bit.
At
least in terms of the situation that he's in. He's still, he's still a little craven when it comes to gunfire. He's still a bit unsure of himself that way.
He's a ninny.
Yeah. Right? That way, absolutely. But he's also, his mentality also is, listen, I'm a gift shop clerk at a museum. I'm an amateur Egyptologist. That's all I am. I'm not a mercenary. But you still get to see him take a little bit of lead. You get to see him do his analysis. It's kind of nice to see that power dynamic shift towards Steven, right? Mm-hmm. And we saw big bits of that when Mark was like, look, I'm not capable of figuring out the star map in the last episode. Mm-hmm. So he cedes power. You also then get elements of like body horror and like suspense and horror, right? When you see this mummy creature or like this whatever creature it is, whatever it is, I don't know. And he's doing his dissection on the sacrificial table.
But can I just call a timeout? I don't know if you have timeouts on this podcast, but I'm calling a timeout.
Okay.
What is this all about? I don't understand. They went down. They were in the Egyptian desert. They said, here's Amit's tomb. They went down a shaft. They're kind of wandering around. Where did this thing come from? I'm very confused.
This is now where we take a leap into what it could be versus what it actually is, because they don't explicitly say it. I imagine that this tomb was the specific resting place for Amit, right?
Mm.
And so when Amit was ensconced in stone and kept here, I imagine the gods also put in monsters to prevent anyone from accidentally releasing or purposefully releasing Amit.
Okay.
So I imagine that this monster or monsters and all these traps that we see are specifically there as kind of like a deterrent system. It's like an ancient alarm system to prevent anyone from coming in.
Fair.
Okay? So that's the thing. So, and you can see that these are traditionally elements of traditional Egyptian behavior because they're on a sacrificial table, and around the table you see a bunch of canopic jars, which were traditionally used to store human organs before the person was mummified. So it's
who is this dude on the table then?
I think it was one of Arthur Harrow's henchmen because they were the ones who were in there, right? Because they're also trying to find their way to Amit's tomb.
I just felt like there was a lot of snakeskin and blood and stuff.
Yeah.
Now that you explain it, it becomes a little bit more understandable. But at the time, I was kind of like, well, wait a second. This seems to be like someone's like torture workshop. Aren't we supposed to be underground in a tomb? Like, this isn't like a working laboratory.
No. I think that the creature that was doing this dissection and this, autopsy, if you will, was a supernatural creature that the gods have put in there as a deterrent system. Again, this is, maybe this segment is Pete takes a leap of faith. I like that because again, now we have another expectation subversion, right? Because in this genre, we don't typically see any kind of body horror or horror. You see, in tomb raiding movies, it's really about dusty hallways. It's about diving across before you get sliced in half.
You see a skull. That's kind of the most you see, right?
An inordinate amount of like bones and skulls in cages, and you see like Indiana Jones, you're diving across a gap before you get sliced in half by a hidden saw blade. These are the kinds of things that we're so used to seeing in tombs, right? Whether it's era appropriate or regional appropriate or not, it doesn't matter. Once you're in a tomb, geography kind of disappears, right? It's almost always the same everywhere you look, including Tomb Raider, for example. And then you see, so you have that body horror where now Layla is being so Layla and Steven get split up. Steven goes towards to find the tomb, and Layla, is running away from this mummy or this monster or whatever.
Yeah.
She's able to, you see a very strong character, right? Because she gets captured by the guy, but then she fights the monster off and actually ends up killing the monster and then throwing the body down this never-ending pit.
How do you feel about that?
I don't mind it one way or another. I like that we have a strong female character.
Yeah.
Right? And I like that because she is a good foil to Stephen Grant. Maybe not so much to Mark Spector, but she's a very good foil to Stephen Grant, who's like this timid, non-physical, more of an academic. Yeah. But maybe against Mark Spector, who's also another mercenary, who's also theoretically been involved in some kind of tomb raiding of kind. You have two strong characters. It's almost like two alphas. I don't know how much that works. And I think that's why the dynamic of Steven and Layla works better, or at least seems nicer.
I like Layla being a strong character. And I agree. I think that's important, especially when you compare it to Steven. But, and I don't in any way intend this to be sexist, but I don't really enjoy watching a female character physically fight off some type of like monster who is probably not just scarier, but like a lot more stronger and physical.
Right.
I'm okay with the strong woman winning, but I'd prefer her to win with like cunning or being clever, or even a weapon.
Right.
Rather than just saying, I'm just going to kind of like out wrestle him and then smash a stick of dynamite in his eye socket and light
that's
it.
That's kind of what she does, right? She uses the flare to
that's why.
That's the weapon. So yeah, I get it. Look, there's a lot of.
I mean, I'm picking on that scene, but I like the idea that she wins and that she's strong. But I like maybe one of the reasons I like Tomb Raider so much is that Tomb Raider, I found that it was a very clever type of. Like it's more clever in terms of how she.
It's like a battle of wits more than it is.
Yeah, a battle of wits.
Brawn, right?
Yeah. Anyway, that was my.
Yeah,
one of my
fine.
issues,
and that could be valid as well. That's fine.
Yeah.
I ultimately the point is, I think, which you said also is that it's good that she won, and it's good that she won under her own accord.
Yes.
Right? It's not
no one could have helped her. She had to win by herself.
Exactly. I think that would have really cheapened the thing, if like Harrow or even Mark or Steven or somebody else comes in, or by just happenstance that, he takes a step back and falls off. I think that would have been really not great.
Yep.
I think it was through her own ability that she beats this monster. I think that's great. Harrow even acknowledges it. He sees her across the pit and he says that was masterfully done. I don't think I could have ever seen that happen. And this is where maybe things get a little cliched, right? Because you have one character holding on to some information, and she finally gets it from him that Mark was there the night her father died, right? Yeah. And again...
How does Harrow know this, by the way?
Because I think Harrow was Mark's partner.
Oh, so he was the mercenary who killed her father.
No, so we'll get to that. So we'll get to that in a second. We'll come back to that. So Harrow then teases her a little bit more and ekes out a little bit more information, right?
Yeah.
Which again,
very manipulative.
Not just manipulative, but it's also super cliched as a viewer. Like this, we've seen this time and time again. Just pull the rug and get it over with. We know it's coming, right?
Yes.
you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not really ratcheting up the tension like this. It's a very manipulative way, not just as a character. As a character, that's fine. But as viewers, what you're trying to do is manipulate the viewers into this false sense of drama. And again, by this point, in 2022,
rip the Band-Aid off.
All of us are smart enough. We've all seen many other TV shows and movies where you don't need to do that anymore.
I agree.
Right? So fine. And then and while all this is happening, Stephen finds the tomb, and lo and behold, we find out that the tomb is of Alexander the Great. I don't know how I feel about this being Alexander the Great, but fine. And then we learn
Who is Alexander the Great? Who is Alexander the Great?
The leader, the emperor of Macedonia. He took over half of the world, kind of like he's Europe's version of Attila the Hun.
So that's kind of what I thought. So,
or not Attila.
Why is he in an Egyptian sarcophagus?
Oh, because famously Alexander had taken his conquest to Egypt, right?
Is that right?
Yeah. He had liberated Egypt. That's the city of Alexandria is named after him.
Oh, Pete, I'm so happy that one of us knows history. Thank you.
So yeah, it's fine. I'm not even that much of a historian. I just vaguely remember this from my high school.
You're just an amateur Egyptologist.
I'm a professional MCUologist. So
all right.
So Alexander the Great, we find out then Steve, and I thought was brilliant is you get to see the dynamic between Mark and Steven using the reflections in the water and then on the knife, and and so they're combative, obviously, because Mark sees Steven having kissed his wife, and he doesn't like that, and it physically manifested earlier in the episode when Mark, for a split second, takes control and punches Steven in the face himself.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, but then you see them work together, and they deduce that Alexander must have been the voice of Amit, and then they think, well, where would they have hidden it? Oh, in a place they wouldn't think to hide it. And so he opens the sarcophagus, sees Alexander's mummified body, cuts open the wraps, sticks his hand into his throat. He breaks the jaw. And, this is where like the amateur Egyptologist comes in, right? Like no archaeologist would dream of doing what he did, right?
Apologizing at the same time.
But like desecrating a tomb effectively, right? And like destroying history. Reaches into Alexander's body through the mouth and through his throat and pulls out a little statue, a figurine, which we all figure out, and it's very heavily implied, is Amit's entombed or ensconced body.
Yep.
Right? And then at that same moment, Layla catches up to him. They have the tete-a-tete. And Layla's like, I don't give a crap about this anymore. What happened to my father? Mark is able to take control.
Yep.
Right? Because Steven kind of shirks back and shrinks at this. And
not
taking
his problem.
The opportunity, Mark takes control. And he admits that he was there the night that Layla's father died. She asked what happened, and he said that my partner got greedy and killed him, right? And I think they didn't say it, but this is maybe the ongoing element of
Pete takes a leap.
Pete takes a leap segment, which is I think Mark's partner was Arthur Harrow as Moon Knight. They had the thing as Moon Knight. Because Arthur Harrow, remember, was Khonshu's previous avatar. I think what happened is that Harrow kills everyone there, badly wounds Mark, because you remember Mark admits, I should have died that night as well. Oh. And I think that upset Khonshu so much that Khonshu left Harrow as the avatar and saves Mark by becoming the avatar. By choosing him to be his avatar, which is how Mark gets saved, right? Because he's supposed to have all these bullet wounds, but his suit heals him. And that's such a traumatic experience, which I think you thought about a couple episodes ago. And maybe that's the traumatic experience that caused him to theoretically have this like schizophrenic episode and create these multiple personalities.
Okay, this is blowing my mind, but I have one question. I thought in one of the second episode, Khonshu was talking to Mark about kind of like, it's escaping me exactly how they phrased it, but basically like Khonshu is requiring Mark to do something. So how did that relationship form? Because it seemed like they had like some type of deal, you know, it was like,
that's right.
Mark owed him or something, right?
So I think that this is it. I think this is the transaction that was made, is that Khonshu says, I'm going to be your avatar. No choice in this because that's how I'm going to save you. Yeah. Mark doesn't want to be Khonshu's avatar. Yeah. I think, and so Khonshu says, fine, I will choose someone else to be my avatar. But in the meantime,
you've got to do this.
The deal is you have to stop Harrow.
Okay.
Right? And again, who knows? This is all going to come out, I think, in the next 2 episodes. So the next 2 weeks, I think, are really crucial. I think that's where, you know.
But hold on. Can I go and clarify one more thing? So Harrow was Khonshu's avatar, right?
Yes.
So after Harrow killed everybody, apparently Khonshu couldn't stop him. Khonshu leaves him. Is that when Harrow first had the idea to bring back Amit?
I don't know. I think that Harrow secretly wanted to bring back Amit regardless because, so remember, the idea is that Khonshu and Amit are 2 sides of the same coin. They both want to have justice.
Yeah. They have different
One
ideas
wants
of
to
how.
do it Minority Report style. Amit wants to eliminate people who are bad before they can do anything bad. Whereas Khonshu is all about bringing justice to people who have done bad after they've done anything bad.
What's your feeling on Minority Report style justice?
It eliminates the idea of free will, right?
Yeah.
If everything is preordained, then, you know, I mean, it's a complicated issue. It makes for a great movie. It makes for a great series, and it makes for a great, ethical or philosophical debate. Yeah. But I think my fallback would be I'm Team Khonshu, not Team Amit.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So now we get to the point where Harrow shoots Mark / Steven, and they wake up in the insane asylum. And this is where things for me get, I'm just not sure. Like this part I understood. I just don't know where I fall in terms of what's going on. Right.
Right. You have that little, so if you remember, what was the movie? Get Out? Jordan Peele's first directing movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the sunken place, right? So you have the scene where Mark Spector is falling through what appears to be like the sunken place and then wakes up sedated in this mental asylum, right?
They had so many, though, little, I don't even think we can call them Easter eggs. There were so many triggers that were kind of intentionally there so that I feel like they were trying to prime me to really believe that all of this was in his head, right?
Exactly.
They had this movie called Tomb Bunker, right? With
starring Stephen Grant as the main guy.
Stephen Grant as the main guy. All kind of the Egyptian artifacts, something that kind of looked like Khonshu's head. There were,
Can I blow your mind one step further? I don't know if you noticed this, but I realized this and I had to watch that scene again. Like I paused, rewound and watched again. Every person in that asylum were people we've already seen in the show. No,
Layla.
We're the actual same guys. Layla was there.
Yeah.
The guy who's calling out the bingo numbers was actually the guy who's the golden statue that Steven talks to outside of the museum.
I have to watch that again. I picked up on Layla, absolutely. And I picked up on the guy who is being sacrificed. Yeah, it was the orderly.
The orderly? No. Yeah, exactly. The guy being sacrificed. He was also the detective. He was one of the detectives who picks up Steven in his apartment in London. Yeah. And his partner was the other orderly. It was just so many. So it wasn't just the objects that referenced back to the
people.
show. It was also the people, right?
So the question is Mark/Steven clinically insane and they've just fabricated this whole thing in their mind? But then towards the end, like if it just would have ended there, we'd probably have a good faith question. But the way that it played out after he like tried to escape and run down the hallway, it seems like it's not. But then I got even more confused because there's a sarcophagus. Mark came out. And now those two were kind of face to face. They both remember being shot. And then the hippo, I was like, I don't know where this is going.
But before that, remember how last episode we were talking about there has to be a third personality?
Yeah.
And in this case, we see a second sarcophagus that's also shaking wildly.
Yes.
But they don't open it. They skip it. I think that's his third personality. The secret personality that he doesn't know about.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So
where does this hippo come from, though?
Yeah, all right. So this is the Pete Does Digging segment.
I love the Pete Does Digging segment.
So we the episode ends, I think, relatively hilariously with the hippo opening the door. When them opening the door to like this not animated,
and just like laughing, like tee hee hee.
Yeah, CGI hippo, like this overly large hippo who's got a very cutesy feminine voice, right?
What's an overly large hippo?
Well, okay. Fair enough. A bipedal hippo.
A bipedal hippo. Yes.
Right? And so what I did the digging was that apparently this hippo is the Egyptian goddess called Tawaret or something like that. And she's supposedly the goddess of childbirth and fertility.
Oh, that's interesting. Tower, yes, we've heard of this person before, right?
Yes, so I believe this is the same lady that we saw give Mark the information in the when they had that confluence.
That was
there
was Yetzel. No, there was Yetzel, and then Taweret was there as well.
No, you're right. It was Yetzel who was the one who gave the information, but I believe she was also there. This lady was also there.
Taweret was there as well. Correct.
So that's when I started so that's who the hippo represents, is the ultimate end thing. And then of course you see the two Oscar Isaacs screaming, and then the show fades to black. I thought that was a hilarious way to end it. I thought that was very good. Great episode.
And it leads, I think the ending was very good because it put really a seed of doubt into my mind as to, and also remember when Mark fell out of his wheelchair, which he was
tied
affixed
to it.
Yeah. He had kind of like a figurine of someone who looked like
Moon Knight. It was a Moon Knight.
Moon
figure.
Knight.
Yeah, it was like a G.I. Joe figure of Moon Knight.
Yes. I thought there was a lot to unpack there. And I'm not now, based on that, the next episode could start almost anywhere and it would be hard to be surprised or confused, right?
So I will say this. If they had ended the episode with him sitting in trying to escape from Harrow's office, okay? Mm-hmm. Not having found Stephen Grant in the sarcophagus, not having met Taweret, I think that would have been a much better ending to this episode because it would have been a more significant cliffhanger. Yeah. It would have been us discussing, I agree. Is this all happening?
Is it or is it not? Yeah. And they gave it away a little bit too much, right? A little
too early. I think they blew their wad a little early. I think that what happened is where my feeling now is that he's been killed, and this is kind of like the Egyptian afterlife, where he's kind of like in a limbo status, where some of the where I think Amit has kind of constructed this limbo to convince Stephen Grant that it was all in his mind. And I think that the other gods are kind of there to try to snap him out of it. I think Taweret And I expect we're going to see Yatzil's going to come out, snap them out of it, and really kind of pull back the curtain by the end of that by the end of next episode. And then I expect episode 6 to be like the final battle between Amit and Moon Knight. And what I have, and I think this is how, in my mind, this is how I think this is going to play out.
Tell me.
Arthur Harrow is going to let Layla go in the real world. She's going to have seen Mark Spector and / Stephen Grant die. One of the gods is going to intervene, or not intervene, but approach her. She's going to go find that statue of Khonshu.
Okay.
She's going to break that statue of Khonshu, or, undo it with one of these minor gods' or major gods' help.
Okay.
She's going to become Moon Knight.
Oh.
The Avatar.
Wow. Because and this has been alluded to as well.
Kind of been alluded to, and
Yeah.
and frankly speaking, if there's anyone else in this show who's capable of playing that, I think it's her. I really think it's her. Right? You've seen her resilience without any powers. I think she's going to become Khonshu's avatar. With Khonshu's help and with the other gods' help, they're going to save Mark / Steven from the afterlife. They're going to bring him back. Khonshu is going to go back into Mark / Steven as his avatar. And then I think we're going to see the fight between the renewed Moon Knight versus Amit. I think that's where we go in this.
So based on where we are now, though, it's strange that we see Arthur Harrow in this insane asylum scene because something must have happened in the real Egyptian world after Mark was shot, right? So it would have seemed that after he was shot, that Arthur Harrow would have taken the statue and unensconced or brought back Amit, right?
Yeah, I don't think he's the type to just wait around to do it until the next episode.
Yeah.
I think he would have done it instantly.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where this sidebar is coming from, unless this is, and there's something else we haven't considered, unless this is kind of like a flashback, and maybe this is, although they say they remember being shot.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have said that, you could kind of say maybe this is a prelude to everything that's about to happen, right?
I think that this is happening in real time. I think that this is all just something of Amit's creation, or of, or it could just be a figment of Stephen and Mark's imagination for them to justify what's been going around to them.
Yeah. It was strange that they came face to face with each other. I mean, I think you picked up on something really interesting, which is that third kind of shaking sarcophagus. But when that hippo came in, I was just like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, there must be a big hallucination, because this whole scene is now like just too unsettling, to be reality, right?
I imagine that this is Limbo. I think this is the Egyptian version of Limbo. Or, maybe not Limbo, but Purgatory, someplace in between where you're not quite in heaven, you're not quite in hell. Maybe the gods, the Egyptian mythology or religious mythology is that, when you die, one of the gods, maybe it's Anubis. I can't remember because I'm not up to date on my Egyptian.
You're not an Egyptologist.
Mythos.
You're not an Egyptologist.
But one of the gods takes your heart out and weighs it on the scale, right? And if the scale is balanced, that's when you get to. We saw this in American Gods.
Well, yeah, and it's a little bit like what Harrow does as well, right? The good, whether or not you've lived a good life or you're
exactly.
A good person.
So, but the difference is that happens at death. It doesn't happen, while you're alive. So that the God weighs your heart, sees the balance of the scale, and if it's okay, you pass on to the afterlife, or you don't, whatever it is. I think that's where we are. I think we're in that in-between space.
How many episodes are left in this season?
2 episodes.
And there's no second season as far as we know, right?
As far as we know, no, which leads me to imply one of 2 things is going to happen. Either Moon Knight becomes, either Oscar Isaac stays as Moon Knight and then gets transitioned into the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Or Layla, May Kalamaui, she becomes Moon Knight, and She stays Moon
transitions
Knight,
into the Marvel universe,
and then she transitions into the Marvel universe.
right? Because I feel like this is too much of a new intellectual property that for them to just say, and that was it, one season, right? That's okay with Hawkeye.
Yeah.
That's okay with Hawkeye because Hawkeye we've seen so many times and there's nothing else to do. They just squeezed a season out of him. But for Moon Knight, who's new, it doesn't make sense to create something and then mothball him.
And then also simultaneously, the character is so relatively unknown compared to, you know, Spider-Man, X-Men, etc., that if you did do a gender swap, where now Moon Knight is actually an Egyptian woman versus an American man or a British man, I don't think there would be a tremendous pushback from the community, except for maybe, you know, like outside of the sexists, outside of the Oscar Isaac fans, outside of, you know, those people who are like hardcore, oh, well, the comics were like this, so you can't change it. Even for me, as someone who strongly believes you should adhere to source material, Moon Knight is so obscure, and Layla, the actor, is so good that I have no qualms with saying, hey, you know what? Let's modernize the character. Let's make it an Egyptian. And let's make it an Egyptian woman. I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, they could split the difference and just say, look, just like there was the dual personality between Mark and Steven, that it's between Layla and Mark, right? And they just could use both actors in the future.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's a lot they could theoretically do to make it work. I'm just saying.
But it's not going away. It's not going away is what we agree.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I just think that Oscar Isaac as a star is too charismatic to just kind of not be exploited for further use. And I know that's not the right word, but and Marvel as a brand and as a franchise, if there's any potential for money to be made, why would they leave out another character from their stable?
I think, though, the fact that it would be a gender swap and go to Layla would possibly be more realistic if the actress were someone like Angelina Jolie. You know, I feel like Oscar Isaac is a big name.
Yeah.
It seems if it was two kind of like unknowns, possible, but it seems like Oscar Isaac is a calling card, you know?
Yeah,
are you really going to like mothball him?
I disagree. I disagree only because the MCU now is so advanced and it has become a part of so many people's lexicon and as part of the cultural zeitgeist that they've kind of become like, hey, this is who our character is. And that's enough to be a star power move, right? Look, let's put things in perspective.
Who is the most obscure? Yeah, Shang-Chi is a good one.
Look at Shang-Chi. Obscure character in the comics, or relatively. And Simu Liu, not that he's a good guy or a bad guy. I think he's a wonderful actor. I loved him in Kim's Convenience. I've followed his career prior. But he was also, in terms of Hollywood, was also a relative nobody, right? He was certainly not an A-tier star. And that was a wonderful performance. And then if you look at and then if you look at the Netflix TV series, on average, when they do Daredevil with Matt Murdock and what's the guy's real name? The British guy. Oh my God.
I don't know. I've never watched Daredevil.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. It's blanking on me. But he.
Help us, listeners. Right in now.
He made that show what it was, and Mike Coulter he played also in The Defenders, and he had his own series.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I am losing my mind today. I can't remember the show that he was on as well.
This is why we need a teleprompter and an intern.
Yeah, Iron Fist's friend.
I don't know what this is. I've never watched Iron Fist, actually.
Yeah, no. Well, so Iron Fist, I think, is an example of them doing it the wrong way, right? Where they took a minor character, they didn't modernize him, and it comes off as potentially culturally inappropriate. Whereas if May Kalamaui becomes Moon Knight, it becomes relevant not just because you're now making more females as superheroines, but you're also making culturally appropriate heroes, right? having an Egyptian superhero, or at least a superhero based on an Egyptian god, be played by...
that's true. There is no Arab or Middle Eastern superhero at all, right? This would be a boon to the region that you'd have the first, Middle Eastern superhero, whereas everyone
which is kind of the direction Marvel is going.
Almost all American, I guess.
American or
Black
British.
Panther. Black Panther's from Wakanda. I mean, if we're just talking about not like the actors.
Oh, but almost exclusively American.
Except Black Panther.
Wakanda, which is also a fictitious country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
It's a real country. We just can't see it because they've got vibranium.
Exactly.
Right. Who else would there be? Who's a non-US, non-Wakandian?
Captain Britain is supposed to be one of the characters that
is that a thing?
Captain Britain is a thing, and it's hilarious because people were suggesting that, look, if DC is not going to use Henry Cavill as Superman, MCU should
James Bond. You've got James Bond. The UK has James Bond. They don't need a MCU character.
Yeah, but of course they do, because that's how the MCU works. But yeah, look, I think that anyway, that's the look at the character as a potential culturally appropriate.
what we know is that this series is going to end. They've got to wrap it up quickly within the next 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But Moon Knight, as we know him or her, is not going away, going to remain Khonshu's avatar. Obviously have another, hopefully prominent role in MCU, right? Season 2, I'm not so sure about season 2. I think the transition is more likely to go to cinema.
And I don't see the need for it, because ultimately I think the important thing is that Marvel was using these shows as origin stories, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I liked about the Marvel version of Spider-Man is that you don't really see an origin story. You don't see him get bit by a spider. You don't see him lose Uncle Ben. You don't see all those stereotypical things, because you don't want to waste Hollywood screen time on that. It's very expensive, and everyone's seen it before. Whereas
these movies are already 2.5, 3 hours long.
Exactly.
Like, you have to cut something.
You have to, right? And I think whereas now what you're saying is, okay, we want to do an origin story for Moon Knight, but to do it justice, you need to spend 2 hours on it. Is anyone going to want to watch 2 hours of an origin of this Egyptian god that very few people can relate to come on screen? I think that'll be tough. Let's do the same budget, but over 6 episodes, let's do a 4 to 6 hour show. I think that adds more value to the character, right? And that allows them to say, hey, people really liked him. Reviews have been good. Let's now move him onto the big screen. And then we don't need to waste time. So Moon Knight 1, when it's, launches in the cinematic universe in 2025, no one is worried about who is this guy, because everyone can be like, oh, well, he was in that successful, Marvel's TV series.
So, I mean, we're really chomping at the bit. Not that we want to get to the end, but we kind of want to get to the end to kind of see where we go from here, right? The next episode, obviously,
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Like, it's rare for me to be really pumped to see what happens in the next episode. And I think that's because the shows that I typically watch aren't really designed for that, with the potential. And that's what I think the MCU is very
intrigue.
good about.
Yeah, this isn't about it is in a larger sense a continuation of a story, but it's more of every episode's a continuation of the story. Yeah. This is more of a reveal of the context of where this character actually is in the scheme of reality or fantasy.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. It's that we're not super worried about the overall plot. I think what we're really more interested is in the reveal of the context, right? It's how did we get here and where is here? We, as somewhat educated fans of TV series who have an understanding that in general, the hero is the winner, not the bad guy. I think you and I know, or are reasonably certain, that Amit is going to lose and that Khonshu is going to win. The question is, how do we get to that point?
Yeah.
Right? Or some variation of that. All I'm saying is that I don't expect an Avengers and Infinity War version where Amit destroys the religious pantheon of Egypt. I don't see that happening in this TV series.
So there's a risk, though, that, and we've seen this almost famously with Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
that you create this great kind of story and this cliffhanger, and then suddenly you're like, oh, shit, we've only got 2 more episodes. Quick, everybody, get to your places. And it wraps up in a really clumsy way because you've written this great start to the story. And then, the last chapter of that book is like, okay, they solve their problem happily ever after, the end. You're like, whoa, hold on. That should have taken 3, maybe 4 episodes to tease out. You kind of shortchanged me by, going through those motions so quickly. So I hear you. I think we're very, very stoked for how this is going to play out. At the same time, I'm really hoping it's not a rush job and we get shortchanged by saying, oh, that would have been so cool if they just could have taken their time.
Yeah, my only response to that is that I give Marvel all the benefit of the doubt because they did that with the cinematic universe. They plotted it out. They were very open and transparent about how things were going to play out overall. Individual movies, we didn't know whether they were going to be good or bad. We didn't know whether they were going to be well thought out or not. But the universe as a whole was very well thought out. So I don't see Marvel all of a sudden going to the DC platform version of making a story where they're going to all of a sudden, I don't expect to see
stomach punch too.
Let's put it this way. At the end of episode 6, when the end credits roll, I don't all of a sudden expect to see Samuel Jackson show up and say, would you like to be a part of the Avengers Initiative? I don't expect to see Captain Marvel fly down and say, hey, you seem like a cool guy. I don't expect to see Hulk smash through the door like the Kool-Aid Man. None of that. I think Marvel is now going to be like, hey, look, we gave you 6 episodes. Here's what I want you to do from A to B. Get there in a nice way to do it. And I think Marvel also, because Disney owns the platform, can say, hey, if you need 8 episodes to do it in 8. If you need 7, do it in 7. Right?
Yeah,
WandaVision was 7 episodes, some 6.
Or I want a 2-hour. Remember they used to have like the 2-hour season finale?
Yeah.
Bring back the double episode.
Yeah, it was, exactly.
Actually, that may be the case. We don't know. The last one may be. Yep.
So I think that in that sense, I give Marvel a lot of credit to say where they've earned my trust. Let's put it that way, that they're not going to rush through anything. And
Marvel is like one of your preferred brands. Like you've really got a lot of goodwill for them.
And it's not so much Marvel. I think it's actually really like people like Kevin Feige. It's people like Jon Favreau. It's the guys who are really attentive fans themselves who have said, hey, we've got a great IP, but things need to make sense. We can't just throw everything into the pot and willy-nilly. And they've done it that way. Whereas, like, I don't think the sequel trilogy of the Star Wars movies, I don't think was done with that care. With that thought.
Oh, that's a separate episode. That we will, if we open up that.
Yeah, that is a couple hour long episode easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
you and I have a lot of opinions to share there.
Yeah,
so let's table that one because I agree. Once we open that up, you and I are going to go on almost indefinitely, and I would love to have that conversation, but I want to have that conversation when we can truly have that conversation A to Z, because a lot needs to be said there, and including some good things.
Sure, it's not those movies aren't without merit.
Yeah,
but I think, okay. You know what? Let's not get into it because all of a sudden this 50-minute podcast is going to become 3 hours and 50 minutes. So.
At least. So what we're both very high on Moon Knight. 2 episodes left, and we'll do one by one next week. We'll do another episode when it comes out.
Yes, we certainly will. So my theory, just to remind you guys, my theory is that that Layla is going to temporarily find a way to become Moon Knight, and with the help of a newly freed Khonshu and with the help of some of the other gods in the Egyptian pantheon, I think they're going to find a way to break out of limbo I hope we unmask this third personality, and then at the same time, I expect episode 6 to be the one where they duke it out.
I am excited to see what kind of suit Layla has, and the third personality, if that third personality has a suit as well.
How crazy would that be?
Crazy.
How crazy would that be?
Pete, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for the time. That is Moon Knight.
Ethan, it's my pleasure.
Join us next week. Next week, episode 5, the penultimate episode.
Yes, that's
right.
I
think we'll have hopefully more answers, but probably more questions.
Which we will try to answer for you.
With more answers. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pete. Join us next week.
Have a good week, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.